Welcome to the Trending Gossip Podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into the secrets of mastering a new language in just 6 months. Whether you're learning for...
All right, everybody. Welcome to another deep dive. You ready to have your mind blown today?
Always up for a good brain stretching session.
Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of accelerated language learning.
Oh yeah, I've been looking forward to this one.
We're dissecting a TEDx talk by Chris Lonsdale. And, well, let's just say he makes a pretty bold claim.
Bold.
He says you can become fluent in any language within 6 months.
6 months? Really?
6 months. Yeah, I know, right? We had to dig into this and see what's really going on.
Absolutely. That's a pretty audacious claim, isn't it? To achieve fluency in any language in just half a year really challenges the conventional wisdom about language learning, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Wait.
And Lonsdale doesn't shy away from challenging some of the biggest myths right off the bat. Like, he says, forget about needing some special talent or having to upend your life and move to a foreign country to become fluent.
Yeah, he really tackles those common misconceptions head on. You know, the idea that you have to be a linguistic genius or live abroad to truly master a language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He argues that anyone can become fluent, regardless of their background or circumstances.
It's so refreshing, isn't it, to hear someone debunk those myths. It can be incredibly empowering for language learners to realize that fluency is within their reach.
Totally. In fact, Lonsdale even shares this really inspiring story about a woman named Zoe. I don't know if you remember this from the talk.
Oh yeah, Zoe. Everyone told her she just wasn't good at languages.
Right. Like she just didn't have the knack for it. But guess what? She proved them all wrong. She used Lonsdale's methods and, get this, she ended up becoming fluent in Portuguese in just 6 months.
I love that story. Talk about a testament to the power of effective learning strategies. It really highlights the potential of Lonsdale's approach.
Absolutely. Okay, but let's break it down. What are the core principles, the nuts and bolts, that can actually help someone achieve that kind of transformation in such a short time?
Well, Lonsdale outlines 5 key principles, and they are attention, meaning, relevance, memory, and a positive psychophysiological state. Have you ever noticed how much easier it is to learn something when you're really engaged with it, like when it has personal meaning to you?
Oh, absolutely. Like that time I was totally hooked on that historical fiction series, and suddenly I knew all these obscure words. Like I never thought I'd be dropping forsooth into casual conversation.
Exactly. And that's precisely Lonsdale's point. We learn best when we're genuinely interested, right? And we need to harness that natural enthusiasm and apply it to language learning. And another thing he talks about, which I found super interesting, is the idea of modeling successful language learners.
Oh, yeah. Like finding people who have already achieved what we want to achieve and learning from their strategies.
Exactly. It's like having a cheat sheet to the most effective learning techniques. Instead of just muddling through on our own, we can look to the experts and see what they're doing, what's working for them.
Smart. So how do we actually put all of this into practice?
Well, to help us with that, Lonsdale lays out 7 really practical, actionable steps. You ready?
Hit me with them. I'm all ears.
Okay, so first, and this might seem really obvious, but it's crucial. Listen. Immerse yourself in the sounds of the language as much as possible. Podcasts, music, movies, whatever you enjoy. Just get that language into your ears.
Makes sense. Just bathe in the language.
Right, but then here's where it gets even more interesting. Lonsdale emphasizes understanding the meaning of what you're hearing before getting bogged down in individual words.
That's a good point. I remember spending hours, memorizing vocabulary lists, only to realize later I had no idea how to use those words in an actual sentence.
I've totally been there. It's like having all these puzzle pieces but not knowing how they fit together. Lonsdale's point is to focus on the big picture, the context first. Get a feel for how the language is used naturally.
Okay, context before vocabulary. Got it. What else?
Don't be afraid to mix languages. Lonsdale says you can actually use your existing knowledge to accelerate your learning.
So like using cognates.
Right.
Right. Words that are similar across different languages.
Exactly. Or even things like creating bilingual flashcards, using your native language as a springboard into the new one.
So it's not about treating languages like these separate, isolated entities. It's more about finding connections and using those to our advantage.
Precisely. And it makes the process so much more efficient. Now, another key point that Lonsdale stresses is focusing on high-frequency vocabulary. These are the words that you'll encounter most often, so they'll give you the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak.
Right, like learning the essential tools in a toolbox before moving on to the more specialized gadgets.
Exactly. Master the core building blocks first, and then you can expand from there.
Makes total sense.
Okay.
Okay, what about finding a language partner? That's classic advice, right?
Absolutely essential. And Lonsdale definitely recommends finding someone you can practice with regularly, someone you can make mistakes with, and just have fun with the whole process. Learning a language should be enjoyable, not a chore.
Definitely. And speaking of making mistakes, what about pronunciation? I know that could be a big hurdle for a lot of learners.
Oh yeah, pronunciation is key. Lonsdale encourages us to really focus on it. He suggests mimicking native speakers as closely as possible, even if it feels a little silly at first.
I know exactly what you mean. I'm still working on rolling my R's in Spanish,
Yeah,
but I'm determined to nail it.
you'll get there. It just takes practice and a bit of persistence. And finally, to help solidify all this new vocabulary and grammar, Lonsdale recommends using imagery.
Imagery.
Yeah, like creating vivid mental pictures to help remember new words and phrases.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, our brains are visual creatures, right? So those mental pictures can act as really powerful memory aids.
Okay, so we've got a ton of great advice here. But honestly, I've got to say, 6 months to fluency still seems like a really, really ambitious goal.
It is a bold claim, no doubt. But Lonsdale argues that it's absolutely achievable if you combine focused effort with these smart strategies. It's about hacking the learning process, essentially, by focusing on what really matters. It's about working smarter, not harder.
I love that. And it strikes me that so much of what he's talking about seems relevant beyond just language learning.
Exactly. It's all about understanding how our brains learn best. So really, these principles could be applied to acquiring any new skill or knowledge.
Absolutely. So here's a question for all of you listening out there. If you could become fluent in a new language in 6 months, which one would you choose? And what's the first step you'd take, like today, to make that happen?
Great question. Think about it, folks. What language has always intrigued you? What would open up new doors for you, personally or professionally?
And here's one more thing to ponder as you're mulling over that first step. Lonsdale focuses on language learning. But what if we applied these principles to other areas of our lives?
I love that.
Could we learn to play an instrument, master a new skill, or even change a habit, all in 6 months, using a similar approach?
It's a really fascinating idea. The possibilities are truly endless when we start to think about learning in this way.
Food for thought, everybody. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Happy learning!
I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content.